the previous movie was made by actual CIA agents, right? So it only makes sense that this movie is made by, MKUltra scientists.
Ask about Illuminati, since the charting of Peters. Is it Disney mind control? Is this MKUltra Deluxe? Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about Illuminati. Occult Disney, we teach occult to everybody. Occult Disney, the wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know not to travel far. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah. Occult Disney, it's above so below. Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Occult Disney podcast, where we get inside the head of all the Disney theatrical related films and think about what's inside their head. This is Matt here. It's Paranoid American over there. I did it. I'm coming in hot with Inside Head, the Japanese title for the film Inside Out.
Also, just to be clear, it's the movie Inside Out that said this, not me, but that San Francisco sucks. It's going to cause depression. Your kid will run away.
I had a good time in San Francisco. I was only there for like 2 days, though.
Yeah, try getting moved there after you had a sweet home in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's going to be different. For me, I had some Vietnamese food, not broccoli pizza. I would not be happy with broccoli pizza. I jammed with like 2 different sets of hippies. That is a difference, man. That didn't never happen in Atlanta,
I've growing up, my dad had some stories about San Francisco, like Summer of Love, all that, like the actual heart of it. And he was like, yeah, people were getting robbed and mugged and beaten and left for dead in the street, left and right. Like, it was not just you show up and people put flowers in their hair. Like, that might have been happening, but also crime was rampant. It was a horrible place to be.
No, George Harrison went and right in the Summer of Love and basically got completely disaffected by the whole hippie scene. I think he stopped doing acid after that.
Yeah, I mean, it was all CIA all the way down. We won't jump directly into that yet, but that's pretty much where it was at.
Anyway, in 2003, I didn't get mugged and I jammed with hippies. So maybe things are better in 2003. Cannot tell you about 2026. Haven't been there for 23 years.
Okay, and then 12 years later, this movie came out. Coincidence?
I think not. Okay. Who was that? So, Lewis Black? Was that his shtick? I don't remember. Wait, Lewis Black's in this movie. Wait, I'm crossing wires. Did I? No, those are different guys. Sorry, there's a guy with a similar name who had the shtick.
Well, now I'm just gonna hear Lewis Black whenever the guy gets angry when I see this movie again.
Yeah. This definitely is the past few movies we didn't have the sort of like major. Sorry, I was looking at Lewis Black and my brain just exploded. Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of big stars doing the voices in this one. Brain drifted off for a minute there. Sorry.
You're gonna have to at least let us know who did do the voice if it wasn't Lewis Black.
No, it was Lewis Black.
It was Lewis Black doing the voice. Which
yeah.
I guess is on brand for this movie, because this movie's also a little bit racy in some ways. Not that it's like inappropriate, but it just has some pretty deep cuts and deep references. And it's also ultimately about a girl that's and like about to enter puberty, but that she is actually dealing with depression, like straight up depression. And they're basically showing like she's going to run away. And I don't know, a young girl running away in San Francisco. It's not just like she gets home and it's Home Alone all
with
over
the Manson
again.
family.
Yeah, it feels it's way darker. This is one of the darkest concepts of any Disney kids movie. And also, I didn't pick up on a direct Disney proxy. I couldn't figure out where this is on the whole Disney proxy scale, because she runs away, but it's only for a small portion at the end of the movie. And other than that, she's with her family the entire time. None of her family dies or gets taken away. There's no kidnapping, but it still had that like trauma based sort of like influence.
Two things I'm thinking about. One, Bing Bong is the Disney proxy. When she was left alone at age 3, Bing Bong was there. So the Disney proxy's in the past, and he fades away, at a certain point in the movie. Also, remember we're in Pixar now, and something I think pure Disney films are a little stronger on Disney proxy, whereas I'm going to keep pushing for the Pixar bureaucracy as being a big thing. This movie has that in spades. If you were looking for that thread, I think that's kind of Pixar's main thing, the Pixar bureaucracy. Reality will have all of these rules and will be set up in this way. Cars has it, Toy Story has it, Zootopia has it, Coco has it, this has it.
Yeah, this one establishes like a very specific set of rules of this universe. I also felt like this is maybe one of the more complicated movies. There's a lot of different layers to it, and I don't like it seems less approachable in terms of understanding every single thing that goes on here because it's so layered versus
but it's so nice and candy coated looking.
Well, and the other part too is I'm thinking of is I'm going to say like this is probably top 20, maybe even top 10, but like definitely top 20 Disney material. And I have a hard time comparing it with yesteryear 1930s through 1950s Disney movies that I might also consider like top 10 tier. And it's because the earlier ones, they had this simplicity and there was esotericism. It wasn't occultism necessarily, right? Because the occult part was just that it was talking about folk magic, but people watching it were familiar with that folk magic already. So it's not really occultism in the same way. And now when we get to Inside Out, it feels more like the definition of occult, right? To hide something or to obscure something, where now you no longer get the magical folklore version of the same premise. Now it's all like scientific. Although in this movie, it's a little bit like magical scientific, where your memories, instead of being stored in neurons, they're in these little marbles that you can like look into, and that instead of you having different humors or like actual neurotransmitters affecting your emotions and hormones, there's these little spiritual homunculi living inside your head, and they're the ones pulling all these levers, Men in Black style. But I feel like it's a scientific version, like a secular version of folk magic.
Well, a few things. One, you mentioned she has depression in this movie. Earlier versions of this movie, she actually had depression. They pulled back on that. That was going to be like more of a thing in earlier versions. So this one, they're like, oh, she runs away. She kind of has a little break and runs away. Some other things here, they did do a lot of consulting with psychologists and thing, and then you're like, well, that opens up the door to who was giving them the advice, to put the concepts in this movie, right? So if you really want to read into this one, this is probably a good one to look real closely at, because they may have had people, if you want to look for an agenda in a movie, this is a pretty easy bullseye.
Well, the previous movie was made by actual CIA agents, right? So it only makes sense that this movie is made by, MKUltra scientists, like psychologists.
And it did go through a whole lot of iterations. For much of the movie, it was going to be joy and fear going on an adventure together instead of joy and sadness. Riley was going to be more of a character at one point, maybe even the main character. And at some point they were like, well, Riley's actually not a character. And the more you think about this movie, Riley's not a person, and nobody's a person. We're all just this, goofy conglomeration of like you said, weird mental homunculi, which that's a disturbing thing. I agree. This is a top 20 Disney movie, by the way, but it is one of the more like, existentially like disturbing ones as well. Director Pete Docter, apparently he claims he came up with the idea, noticing that his 11-year-old daughter, like in 2009, my 11-year-old daughter seemed to be less happy and more distant. And I'm like, maybe you've been putting too many hours making up. I don't know.
That's kind of what happens in this movie, right? The dad's got too much time invested in his San Francisco startup or something. Also, there's this concept of the homunculus argument, which was originally introduced as like a logical fallacy, but the premise is what this movie is about. It's that inside your head is like a little person of some kind. It's an more abstract of an idea, but there's like a philosophical little person inside your head controlling this bigger body. And that if that is even has a chance of being true, then it means that whoever is inside your head controlling it has someone inside their head. And then you can just go on forever. Turtles all the way down, right? And that's why it's considered a fallacy, because and it basically turns into simulation theory. That's the end premise of all this. So I would almost make an argument that Inside Out is essentially about simulation theory for babies.
Did you ever make it to Cranium Command at Epcot when that was a thing?
You know, that sounds so familiar. What years are we talking about?
We're talking when did Body Wars open? It would have opened with Body Wars. So it was 91, 89, something like that.
And then it did Body Wars 100.
Okay.
That was one of my favorites.
Okay, it was in that dome, the Wonders of Life dome. It went seasonal probably around 2000 and shuttered.
We're scratching back to like early Paranoid American history, but I do remember not only the Body Wars, but the thing that stood out the most to me were these two metal poles. One was super hot and one was super cold, and you would just like put your hand on both of them and it would feel like it was like scalding you. That was the only real big thing that I remember in that whole dome.
Okay, other things you could do in the dome is go see The Making of Me, where Martin Short teaches you about sex. That's fun.
Oh my god, that's right. And they had these little treadmills with like video screens on them before that existed. Disneyland. You know what I mean?
Anyway, the other thing that was in there was called Cranium Command. You'd go in and it was a theater where they had a physical, like looking through a mask thing, and then sitting in the middle was Buzzy. So in this case, Buzzy is just the one person inside a kid's head, and it shows them going to school. That one also has a few, I don't remember exactly who, but it has a few celebrities in that video.
Man, I don't remember that. I feel like I would have gone there, but I just don't remember it.
Yeah. And then 10 years after it closed, there were urban explorers that went in, I think, stole Buzzy's clothing. So at some point, people went and found like a naked Buzzy in there, which I guess by naked Buzzy, it's like robot parts. But
so I get Inside Out, like that memory's somewhere, but it's fallen down one of those big abyss tunnels. And
well, not for me. I remembered it well. So when Inside Out came out, I was kind of like, oh, they're doing that old show in movie form now. That was kind of how I approached watching this. And I mean, that's a Disney park. Millions and millions of people did do Cranium Command. So this had to scratch that itch a little. You know, maybe that Pete Docter had that in the back of his mind when he was conceiving this movie.
Well, and again, that concept of the philosophical homunculus, I think it dates back to like 18th century. So this is not a new concept. Men in Black didn't invent it either. You know, like this has been around for quite a minute, that like little people are running your body at some like micro, macro, fractal level. I like it. I like this concept too, because again, now I guess my metric for Disney movies, since Walt and the Rosicrucian angle is completely gone, we're not getting any more Desmoulins Disney movies. Now the next version is like teaching children existential philosophy before they're old enough to even know what they're learning. But like this kind of movie kind of does that for them. I
feel like this though, the way the brain in this doesn't really, I mean, as fantastic in a fantasy way as it is, I think it lacks almost anything of the metaphysical. It feels very much like what Alan Watts would. What do we have? The ceramic model and the watchmaking clockwork model or whatever. This is very much like all of reality is constructed like a watch. You know.
Well, my best way of describing how Inside Out tries to represent the brain is a Rube Goldberg machine, and a Rube Goldberg machine is something that is comically over-engineered to do a very simple task, but it takes like all these different, like Pee Wee Herman's like toaster, something like that, where like all these different sequence of events have to happen in order for this result to happen. So it's kind of like child magical thinking logic, but it still conveys the same premise that a much deeper topic would approach. Like they limit everything to what joy, sadness, fear, disgust, and anger. So they limit things to these 5.
They did discuss going up to 27 emotions originally.
Hell, yeah.
Well, you can't do a story with I mean, that it's the reason it's 5 is just because it's practical that way, you know. Just to run through, I'll do. I was saying this is loaded with celebrities. We got Amy Poehler doing Joy, Parks and Recreation, that sort of thing. I took her drinking once, actually. I mean, I took the entire Upright Citizens Brigade TV show gang drinking once. When I was working at the University of Georgia, I was tasked with taking them to the show and back one day, and they got totally wasted before the show. And after the show, they're like, "Don't take us back to the hotel. Take us to a bar." So I took them to my favorite bar. Anyway, I had a good impression of her. Actually, she was fun. She's fun in real life, or at least she was in 2001. Phyllis Smith is Sadness. She is the very similar looking lady from the American Office. Also, Mindy Kaling is Disgust. So we got multiple Office people here. And then, hey, Parks and Recreation is just like one step to the left from The Office.
That's very true. Yeah.
Bill Hader is Fear. I guess he was still a Saturday Night Live guy at this point. And he basically shows up at least for one line in every Pixar movie now. Bing Bong is Richard Kind. He's been a bunch of sitcoms I never actually watched much of. Mad About You, Spin City. Here's some weird ones. Diane Lane was Mom, and then Kyle MacLachlan was the dad's voice. That kind of blew my mind.
I don't even know who those people are. And honestly,
Kyle MacLachlan is David Lynch's guy. He's Agent Dale Cooper on Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah, he's in his Dune. Yeah, so Kyle MacLachlan is like, this is a weird place for him to show up. Hell, Twin Peaks: The Return was done like a year after this. So yeah. And the guards of the subconscious are Gonzo and Fozzie Bear, Dave Goelitz and Frank Oz. I thought that was kind of fun. So it just keeps going on. John Ratzenberger does his line. Rashida Jones, there's another Office person who was also originally writing Toy Story 4 and I guess got Lassetered out. Like Lasseter is getting creepy towards her or something. I don't know.
Rashida Jones was writing Toy Story 4?
She wrote original drafts of the movie. I don't know if her name actually made it to the final because she left in like 2016, right before Lasseter got thrown out of the company, kind of saying that the work environment at Pixar sucks. And people thinking maybe that's what she was talking about.
Interesting. Did you bring that up on the Toy Story 4 episode and I just forgot?
I don't even remember, to be honest, but she didn't do work on the actual production of the movie, but she was involved in the early stuff and she's doing a voice here. So this is when I didn't even notice, but looking at here, I'm like, yeah, it's almost like a weird version of The Office, the movie, because it is kind of a workplace drama still, or drama comedy still, isn't it? You know, the workplace is this weird
you're totally citadel. Right. It's basically The Office. Yeah.
I mean, I'm the guy that'll be like, yeah, Star Trek's basically a workplace drama too, right? But it's kind of weird, and that's, I wonder if they're weaponizing it, because this, I remember especially in pandemic, there started to be a thing where people would just go and watch the entire Office again, and then a year later do it again. It seems to be a show that people like wear as a badge of honor. They're rewatching. I do have it on DVD. Have never rewatched, but
you know what though? I would say that this is more of a Star Trek thing than a Office thing, because at least in the Office, their job ended and then they had like personalities and lives outside. Well, some of them outside of the Office, but in Star Trek, like your job is your life. Like you work and sleep and live and do everything.
These emotions sleep. I feel like that's not even clear if these emotions sleep or if they're always on. Because when Riley goes to sleep, they're still awake.
True. Yeah, they're just kind of dormant and like hanging out. So yeah,
they just stare at each other in that citadel. I mean, we find out that all the fun is in the Dreamland Studios, right?
I don't know if I would say fun.
Well, at night, if that's the place where things are happening, I guess. And then you got the workers just sorting through memories. I guess that's scientifically accurate, maybe.
No, I don't. I'm not even going to start leaning into anything being scientifically accurate here. It's all magical thinking, and I've got some specific bones to pick. For example,
I have lots of bones to pick.
And I realized that this movie was not supposed to teach children about MKUltra. I get that. Not every Disney movie is supposed to be doing this. But the thing that was really irritating me was that they described the emotions almost like they come in this linear sequence, so that first you're born as a little baby and all you know is joy. And then because you're a baby, you're going to cry at some point, and that's when you learn sadness. And my first thought was, okay, well, first of all, exiting this nice, comfortable, warm womb and hitting the cold air and then getting spanked and just like assaulted and touched and moved around, for most people, like that is also maybe like some fear and some disgust and some sadness and like, or is even that emotion, right? Like if you're ripped out of a warm place and then slapped immediately and you start crying from that, what emotion are you actually conveying? Is there even an emotion happening?
Yeah, I mean, a baby, that's that's all emotion at once. Like theoretically, it should be more like they start splitting into, from one emotion start splitting into multiple ones. That might have made more sense actually. Like,
Well, and then also the whole premise of that you're born into a state of joy and then you start getting the opposite, like sadness. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. And I do think that your description is probably the more accurate version where you just get everything at once and it kind of fragments and splits into different ways. Again, I realize we're talking about a movie that's abstracting a more complicated concept in a way that babies can understand.
I mean, that's what I've heard. One explanation of what LSD actually does is like it just takes out the filters, that you've like if the idea we have the sense of being that then splits into joy and sadness and then splits into smaller things. We're just taking all those filters out, which is the shift in perception. Maybe
getting on a technical level, I would almost say it's less about taking filters out and it's more of like overloading those filters to the point where they become so super saturated that things are making it beyond the filters. That's more what I understand happening in like neurochemistry.
Yeah, I guess that's you go up to the top of the circle going left or you go right,
You go both ways.
Yeah, you end up at the same point. I got a list here of originally when they had 27, some they had were irritation, envy, greed, gloom, despair, depression, love, schadenfreude, ennui, shame, ennui. There we go. I still think I said it wrong. Shame, embarrassment, hope. So those are some. And then surprise made it very close to actually being in the movie, but they cut surprise near. They were like, well, fear can basically cover surprise.
I got to say, I think this was the first time I've seen this movie. And when it ended, I was like, I'm ready to see part 2. Like I know part 2 already came out. We haven't seen it yet. But I was thinking like, I'm actually looking forward to seeing how they expand on this because it looked like they were setting it up, and I'd be happy to watch a series of this where the monster of the week was just a new emotion, and like this is the Schadenfreude week or whatever, where now she's taking pleasure in other people's pain and suffering. I think that it's on brand for the direction that this movie already took because ultimately it's about a little girl getting depression and running away from home in a very relatable way. Like I would almost be afraid that this movie could plant seeds into my own kid, right? That's like, hey, if you ever want attention from your parents, just take a bus out of town. Like that'll show them.
See, this is one where I was watching with my daughter, around, I guess she was 6 or 7 when we would have been watching this. And I did have the like, I don't know if I like, again, animation, A+, voice acting, A. Maybe, sometimes screen actors don't make the best voice actors.
They didn't need it. They didn't really need it.
Anyway, story construction, A, at least, if not A+. Like I'm giving this movie A's, but then philosophically, I'm like, don't like.
Yeah, I agreed. Although as an adult watching it, I like it, but I would much rather show my kids Dick Castles and Little Mermaid and Teenagers Take Off Your Clothes, Aladdin, and even The Rescuer. I would show my kid the Laserdisc version of The Rescuers and pause it and advance to the frame so they can see that one frame way before showing them this movie. Like this movie feels like it could do more damage to them than anything else that usually gets brought up when they're like, Disney's trying to control your kids. I don't know. This one is pretty specific.
This is like the anti-yoga, and I mean yoga not as an exercise, but as in the yoking of the mind, right? Like the whole idea of like yoga. I mean, the poses are just so you can meditate for a really long time and not get uncomfortable or whatever. But the idea there is kind of like you're stitching all those emotions together. Like I mentioned, if the baby's first emotion actually is just being, you're just trying to get back to that. Whereas this movie is like, look how fun it is when we split all these emotions and segment all these parts and have all these mind palaces and have all these different things, which is kind of the opposite of at least Eastern religion.
And also, I mean, let me just clutch my pearls very briefly. But speaking of inappropriate lessons and messages for kids, there was a very overt San Francisco gay fetish subculture joke in this movie that couldn't be interpreted any other way. Where they're talking about, oh, I heard that there might be bears in San Francisco, and someone kind of like snickers about like, yeah, I hear they're like they're real hairy or whatever. And again, I was like, this is literally a movie for 11-year-olds, and I don't know if they hear the audience like laughing, mommy, like, why is that funny? Well, honey, you see, there's this subculture of people in San Francisco that take, like, I don't know. Again, it felt like something
That's
that
a joke from The Office.
exist. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not like offended by it, but it legitimately was like, oh wow, they made that specific joke here without even being able to be like, oh no, it's a double entendre that means this other thing. Like, no, I know exactly what that meant.
Actually, because Toy Story 4 came out 3 years later, and that I didn't know when we were talking about a week or two ago, but that had a little kerfluffle because some people were arguing, oh, there's a same-sex couple in Bonnie's preschool at the beginning. I was like, who cares? I didn't notice.
I didn't notice it either.
No, we didn't notice, but yeah, it was just afterwards.
You know what? If it was just something in the background that you would only notice because you cared to notice, that level of like subtlety, I don't know, it feels less nefarious. This one was literally someone wrote it, someone recorded it, someone edited it, they animated the lips to it. Like, this was a very specific joke. They just felt so completely out of place. It felt like someone put it there intentionally. This is the same energy as the rescuer's frame. Like, whoever inserted that frame was like, I'm doing something naughty. Like, and I feel like someone did that same thing in this movie, but it wasn't hidden. It was like everyone accepted it throughout the whole process.
Well, they had to put more work into it, right? You got to get several more people involved to animate an actual, sequence, even if it's a line of dialogue. I did find a wild stat doing this. I think it said like it took 3 weeks to render like 3 seconds of film or something. I can double check exactly.
It took 3 weeks for them to render out that gay joke.
Yeah, that's my point.
Honestly, I mean, we're talking about the magical process of the early animators, and that if you're sitting there drawing the exact same thing over and over again, thousands of times, that it's almost sigil magic. And I wonder, does that still apply? Like, if you're doing a 3D render and the computer has to sit there and render the same frame adjusted slightly over and over again, have you just like automated your sigil magic like a dishwasher?
Well, here I can I have the specifics now. Each 3 seconds of footage took 3 weeks to create and 33 hours to render. So I guess the 33 hours is after the 3 weeks. So add another day or two to that. So yeah, things don't accidentally happen in 175 million budget computer animated films.
And also, speaking of magic, this one also has a very real representation of a magic circle where, so the general premise of this movie,
sadness circle,
sad circle, a recap of this, but it's about these spiritual homunculi that live in your head that act as your emotions, and they're handling these marbles, kind of like domino rally mixed with marbles that act as like your memories and everything else. And that this girl gets sad because her family moves to San Francisco and her dad's busy and she starts going through some changes. And one of the emotions, sadness, starts touching all the memories. Like, she can't help just touching everything around her. And every time she touches a memory, it becomes sad. So now the other emotions, mostly joy, who's like the main character emotion, is trying to prevent sadness from touching anything because she thinks that she's going to ruin it all. And despite her best efforts, sadness keeps touching stuff. And then all of a sudden, parts of the brain just start shutting down. She stops caring about honesty. She stops caring about family. She stops caring about her friends, like all of her favorite hobbies, until the point where she's emotionally dead inside and decides that she's going to run away from home and get on a bus. And then miraculously, they save sadness. Sadness comes back around, and sadness was the missing key all along, which is kind of telegraphed for quite a ways, right? You get this idea like, oh, because joy was trying to prevent sadness, but sadness is a natural, healthy thing that you're supposed to go through. And only when the girl experiences sadness does she then like come full circle, and then she can go through the rest of her emotions again. So like it's got like a pretty deep message on that. But one of those times in which joy is trying to prevent sadness from taking over, she literally draws a magic circle around her using talc, piece of chalk, and says like, do not leave this circle in order to prevent your sadness from spreading. And it feels like if you were to take a step back, a third person view of this, you have your emotion of joy basically like circumnavigating, like creating this magical circle and putting another emotion into it. This is the whole process of splitting up your emotions. Like this is like fragmenting your brain so that it operates in a completely different way. And we're seeing it happen like illustrated to children.
Yeah, so I don't like the idea of us just being a weird conglomeration of a bunch of Looney Tune characters. It does say they were trying to do Chuck Jones and Tex Avery for the animation here, but they say that on every movie, so whatever. But yeah, I don't like that. I do like the idea because the balls, the memory orbs are all single colors through most of the movie. At the end, it's seen that it doesn't mean that sadness completely takes over, but means that every memory is now blended. I guess that's what happens when we hit age 11 or 12. We get more blended emotions. Before that, it's like Star Wars, good, that's joy, but now I've seen The Rise of Skywalker, so my opinion, Star Wars has more colors in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part where it starts getting all like complex and deep and everything. And I actually like the ending when they show that all the little marbles that your memories are stored in no longer were just red or white or green or purple or whatever, that they were all like mixed a little bit. Again, I think that this is very successful in conveying an incredibly complex theme to like a young mind. Like a kid might actually go into the theater, see this, and walk out and have a different perspective of the world. I don't know, because I didn't see this until I was 40 something, right? So I don't know if it changed my worldview, but it seems that this could be as potent as any other movie, especially if we compare this to just a random sampling of the last 20 movies that came out from Disney. This one definitely seems like it has a bigger impact.
But I do, that's the thing. I feel like the message in this, in general, is kind of like putting blinders onto your consciousness. Because what's the point of focusing on your consciousness if you have these homunculi inside you that are basically running the show? And why do I need to worry about any of that stuff at all? Why do I need to worry about taming the monkey and elephant of my mind?
Right. Well, no, I didn't say that it was like a good lesson to learn. Just it was potent. It's a potent message.
It is potent, and that's why I have such a weird love-hate relationship with this movie. Because yes, top 20 for sure. I love the way it looks. I love the way it goes, but I'm like, I don't. It feels that there's some green of disgust in my memory ball of the movie too.
And some of the parts you mentioned that they had psychologists actually doing consulting on this, it really stands out when they start going into, I think it's like the imagination versus subconscious. So when they go into the imagination, they start breaking it into those 4 phases about like the non-objective fragmentation and the deconstruction, and then the 2-dimensional and the non-figurative. That was kind of like screaming that like some Tavistock Institute person sat down and they're like, "Ze will eat the bugs and ze will learn about the abstract thoughts."
I can give you the specifics, and it's not going to change your mind at all. It's going to push it farther the way you're talking. That said they specifically, because I was like, who did they specifically talk to? And I have one reference here that psychologist Paul Ekman and Dacher Keltner, professor of psychology at the University of California, Berkeley. So Berkeley was that side coming in.
You might as well like Menlo Park, right? They're probably
yeah. I'm like, isn't Berkeley one of the main places for that? So I'm like, yeah. So it's straight from the They're drinking from the fire hose. If you've seen UHF with Weird Al Yankovic,
I did. Yeah, of course. Also, Michael Richards early.
Yeah.
I liked the imaginary boyfriend joke in here. I thought that one. I don't really understand how they worked it into like the final concept of, because it's not just a throwaway character. He actually becomes a vital part of like saving the day somehow. But
he's less conscious than the other homunculi. The other ones have more agency. He kind of does what he's told. He's like, literally, mentally, he's literally two-dimensional.
Right. Yeah. He's not even a imaginary friend, because at least the imaginary friend, what was his name? Doink-a-doink? Bing Bong?
Bing Bong. Bing Bong thinks, right?
Bing Bong has agency. Yeah. But Riley's imaginary boyfriend doesn't really have any agency. He's just sort of another shell. But I'm wondering too, can Joy jump into his head, or is there some other law that they haven't described in the Inside Out universe that they can only jump into certain people's heads, or are they trapped in there forever? Like, can Joy even leave the head, or is this like a prison?
I know nothing whatsoever about the sequel, but yeah, it seems to be it's kind of similar to Sugar Rush. And now in Sugar Rush, if they really try, they can leave. I feel like Inside Head. See, Inside Head does make sense as the title. But yeah, I feel like there is no way out. And maybe telepathy,
Inside Head makes way more sense than Inside Out.
Yeah. If you're Professor X, maybe you can do it. But otherwise, I think they're stuck in there.
Here's another thing that I don't think I've really seen conveyed in a Disney movie up to this point. Again, we're at this time, we're talking about the last 75 years of Disney movies.
This movie's now 10 years old, so we are much closer to present, so we have much more modern sensibilities.
Well, and this one is about a kid losing interest in kid stuff. And that's usually the exact opposite of what Disney's about. Disney is usually about that weaponized nostalgia and reminding you of all the things that you loved as a kid. In this one, it's showing you how the kid is no longer cares about her friend that she had made. She has to develop new friends before she gets there. You actually see her lose interest in it. You see her lose interest in the sports that she used to like. You see her lose interest in all these different things. And I haven't really seen a Disney movie that's showing kids like here's how like the joy inside of you is going to die.
If I want to just pull the conspiracy thread as hard as I can, that's why I keep saying the Pixar bureaucracy. I think a lot of the Pixar movies are more like, look how fun this is. Now get ready to live in this technologically advanced city where you're kind of going to be a prisoner there and everything should run like clockwork except when it doesn't.
Yeah, this is a crappier version of Zootopia, right? Like, no, there's no false premise that anyone's really happy in these cities necessarily, at least not after you're a baby.
Right, and Zootopia doesn't feel like a prison. I mean, the inside out world is kind of like a panopticon that no one's looking into, where everyone's looking into your soul, man. Everyone sees in there, but yeah, these are basically like outside events, I guess, influence them. But yeah, the outside completely influences them. But I feel like they're stuck there at this moment. Again, there's a sequel. Don't know what happens in the sequel. Have had zero spoilers.
Another reason that I think that this movie stands out and like highly is that I personally love this. I guess going back to Body Wars, or what was the other one? Interverse?
Cranium Command. Oh, there's Inner Space with Dennis Quaid.
Inner Space. I'm just saying like this and Magic School Bus, the very first episode where they go inside Arnold, I think. This is like one of my favorite motifs is traveling around inside the body or traveling around inside the brain. So I've got like a predetermined bias to kind of like this premise, but I love the fact that they go through the senses, like at least the sight senses and smell senses, but then they get into the subconscious, they get into the dreams, they get into long-term memory, they go into like all of these very abstract concepts of consciousness, and they visualize it in a way that even I hadn't really seen it visualized before. And I think that it makes the movie far more entertaining and interesting because of them doing all that. To me, it's way more interesting than Baloo going around the jungle, right?
Did you ever come across the 90s Fox sitcom Herman's Head?
Oh, wow. That's something I haven't heard. I mean, I'd have to see some screenshots. But yeah, that sounds very familiar.
But that was rocking the same thing. They just did it on like one set, right? Where it has a few of the, I don't remember if they were emotions, but yeah, it's got like the 4 characters. Okay, this is actually not too far from Inside Out. The 4 characters acting out Herman's emotions each represent a different aspect of his personality or psyche. Okay, so Okay, they're not emotions. There's angel, animal, wimp, and genius. Oh, and jealousy.
I definitely
appeared
remember
once.
this now. Yeah, I remember
Okay.
the fat guy with the hat.
So 4 regulars, and then Bobcat Goldthwait appears once as jealousy as a guest role. That's good. And this is even better. Leslie Nielsen guest stars in an episode as God. So, I haven't seen that show since it was actually on TV. But
Okay, well, so the good example too of not just Herman's Head, great reference, man. I haven't thought of that since it was literally on air. Herman's Head, but also when you mentioned the 27 different emotions, like there's potential that hasn't been used in this particular movie. You can see a million ways that this thing could explode. So as I'm watching this movie, I was like, man, you could take an Inside Out style movie and use that to explain to little Timmy why grandma has dementia and why maybe sometimes grandma gets really angry because she's got dementia. Like you could have an Inside Out that explains that. And if you could do that, now you're like, well, let's do an Inside Out to explain like Jeffrey Dahmer. Like now I want to see like a psychopath version of what's happening inside of their citadel and their, like, what do their islands look like? Like the Jeffrey Dahmer islands are probably a little bit different than the Riley Islands.
well, they do that in this movie, don't they? It's just we don't meet anyone truly horrible. So
Right, yeah, we jump inside of like 4 or 5 different people. Here's another like maybe 80s,
missed
90s.
opportunity when she ran away. She should have run into Charlie Manson, and then we would have gotten inside head for Charlie Manson.
I was also thinking of Look Who's Talking and Look Who's Talking Now and whatever the third one was called, like Look Who's Talking Again, which was kind of a like adult consciousness inside of the mind of the
Look
baby.
Who's Talking Now. Yeah.
Okay, whatever. One Look Who's Talking 1, 2, and 3. Kirstie Alley, and I can't remember who the guy was.
John
Was it
Travolta.
Keaton? Was it Michael Keaton? No, I don't remember.
Travolta. Michael Keaton did Baby Boom. Tom Selleck and Ted Danson and Steve Guttenberg did 3 Men and a Baby. I got this knowledge down in my head. I have little homunculi with real specific and pointless movie knowledge in my head.
Well, it was a very common motif in the 90s to have a full-grown adults thinking for children and for babies and dogs.
Yeah. I mean, when you think that franchise is so bizarre, it seems like such a weird idea. No, 3 Men and a Baby is directed by Leonard Nimoy. That's bizarre as well. Look Who's Talking is... Who did that? Oh, that's Amy Heckerling did Look Who's Talking. Yeah, because she had a kid and was like, "What's going on in my kid's head?" So she did Clueless and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So
there we go. We're giving you your nostalgia blast through all of the references that come out. I guess these are like the little orbs that someone's going through and like touching in in the maze.
That's kind of a fascinating thing about this movie, because even when you see the trailer, you're like, this isn't original, because back in the head you do remember Look Who's Talking, Herman's Head, and Inner Space, right? So this is a weird one in that it really doesn't feel that original, but then it still kind of gets away with it in the end. Like I'm like, yeah, this is an original movie, sure. Maybe it's the imagery that does it. I don't know.
I think it's just done well, man. It's done in a interesting way for a new audience, because even if it's not 100% original, it is original for this particular audience. I don't think it's ever like like Herman's Head was not made for a kid in 2015 that's 12 years old, right? And no other iteration of this was necessarily made for that.
I mean, hell, let's keep in mind, Shakespeare plays, most of those were stories way before those plays were written.
Shots fired. Shakespeare.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, a lot of them are history. Romeo and Juliet was done in a poem form. I think it was already done in a play form before the Shakespeare play appeared.
Right, there's like an Arabic story that goes back super OG on that.
Again, or like a lot of the Disney movies. Originality is something that maybe is overrated.
I really liked all the different places they go. One of them is Dreamland, and Dreamland is essentially Hollywood, right? And that in Hollywood, all of this dream Hollywood, there's these like recurring cast and characters and a whole production unit, and that they know what they're doing. They know that they're putting on like a fake show in order to replay the events for earlier in that day. I just thought that was kind of like a genius way they went about it. And then they put this like filter on it, which in 2015, it was more of an abstract, like, how does this filter work? Now, like, we just got, Snapchat filters and AI
My
filters.
phone has it, yeah.
Yeah, they just does this automatically. So it's not as, I guess it's not as novel as it was in 2015 as it is in 2025.
My mind, of course, had to get something, and I see Dreamland. I start thinking of John Waters' production company from the 70s when he made Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, and Desperate Living. I think he called his production company Dreamland at that time. If you haven't seen those movies, they're the more offensive movies you could watch. I mean, it's transgressive cinema. It's supposed to be offensive.
Oh man, I don't want to get this wrong, but I also feel like Dreamland was the name of the hotel that Timothy McVeigh stayed at leading up to the Oklahoma City bombing.
I do not have a homunculi confirming that fact in my head, so I'll just have to trust you on that.
I just looked it up, and this is correct. Yeah, it's called the Dreamland Motel. So there you go. There's your there's your other MKUltra reference in a Disney movie, Dreamland.
Yeah. Maybe, you know what? I mentioned Cranium Command, Epcot, and this movie does just kind of have an Epcot feel. It's got a little bit of a edutainment vibe to it, It's got like the science stuff, like in a weird, quirky way. Like this does kind of have a little bit of that vibe, I think.
It also, for a movie about emotions, I think it legitimately does a good job of bringing you through moment. I don't know if it's going to make you angry. Maybe. I mean, there's some Disney haters out there, but like you'll legitimately have moments where it's like happy, some sad moments, some kind of like uncertain moments. So itself is doing a great job on that. And I really liked how they do the fear angle. They go to this one specific part. And I was almost expecting like a Stephen King reference. You don't really get it. I guess you get a scary clown, but it's not necessarily Pennywise. But they show that Riley's fears were broccoli, the stairs to the basement, grandma's vacuum cleaner, and Jangles the clown. And I like that they end up using Jangles the clown to wake Riley up. So like the emotions knew to unlock some deeply nested fear of hers in order to like manipulate her into doing something that they wanted her to do.
Well, yeah, I was thinking of the Dreamland people, just to take one step back with Jangles the clown, nice and creepy, of course, but not Pennywise, as you said. But like for the dream world, because you wake up sometimes like that, right? And sometimes you don't even know what it was, but you feel bad for an hour or longer. In general, though, I think I am willing to put the Dreamland people in charge of my dreams. I've managed lucid dreaming. I've had vivid dreams. I kind of prefer vivid dreams. I kind of want my subconscious to put on the production for me,
Yeah, honestly, one of the things about lucid dreaming that I hear from a lot of people, I've done it a few times, but it's not frequent. I have to like plan for it and like try and like really get into doing it. But even people that I know that can do it regularly, they mention it's like hard work. It's almost like the point of going to sleep and dreaming is supposed to relieve, any kind of like stress built up over the day. And it's like you're meant to get R&R. You're supposed to be restored from it. But if you are actively going in and lucid dreaming every single night for like a month on end, that it's tiring and that you don't get the same R&R because you're not necessarily just like letting everything go on autopilot.
Yeah, when I do go lucid in dreams these days, usually I just start looking at details of wherever I am. Like, hey, I can read numbers. They say you can't read numbers in a dream. I can read those numbers, or like, oh, this is interesting because it looks different than it actually should. Like that's more what I do when I have a bit of a lucid dream these days.
I can't disclose what I do in my lucid dreams anymore. It gets dark sometimes. Like I wake up and I'm like, okay, I guess that was a lucid dream because I was definitely testing the limits, but. Like, man, I didn't feel in control of me being in control, if that makes sense.
You can put that on a double paywall on Patreon.
Right. Yeah, no, not even that, man. Also, is this movie communist? Is this movie trying to say that Riley's dad is a bad guy because he's trying to become an entrepreneur and that he's engaging in free market capitalism, right? He's literally running a startup, which is why he went to San Francisco, which I assume it's like some Silicon Valley AI nonsense. It's going to like end the world. Like he's running Skynet, but that essentially he is the source I think objectively of her initial reactions and starting to get sad and getting angry and all that. It's because he uproots the entire family and moves them to this new town and then has no time for them and is constantly stressed out for money reasons. And they're living in this kind of crappy area, especially after it gets dark. So he's kind of the reason for all this. And he wouldn't be doing any of that if he just had universal basic income. Right.
Yeah,
so,
but let's go back to 1930s Russia, 1950s Russia. I don't know. Choose one. And 50s. Let's go post.
Stay right here in America.
We live in a Moscow suburb, and we have been told to relocate to a very nice new modern city out in, eastern Siberia. That's going to cause the same problem for the kid's mind. And now the problem is communism, right?
Well, that wasn't real communism. That's the problem.
Well, that's why, again, Pixar bureaucracy, I don't think it's as much what you're specifically mentioning could be a hit against capitalism, but they don't really judge the dad in this movie. He's a doofus, but he isn't like villainous in this movie, So,
no, not villainous, but it is. I'm just thinking in a very nuanced way. It's some 7-year-olds watching this for the first time, going through new emotions, learning new perspectives. It seems that even if you're not consciously putting 2 and 2 together, it's like, oh, the actual cause of the conflict here was dad uprooting family. Why did dad uproot family? Because dad's chasing money. Therefore, money made this all happen and made Riley sad.
I think Riley and Younger would probably come away with the less defined thing of dad got a new job and we moved. Which is, this is one where, and also, I mean, you could just be like, they're making fun. I mean, hey, they're Pixar. They're kind of a tech startup. And by 2016 tech startup, it sounds like the worst idea ever, right?
Also, the
in San Francisco, tech startup in San Francisco, that's a bad idea. We don't even have to think about capitalism. I think everyone's like, don't do that in 2016.
If you watch the very end credits of this movie, and then this is a pretty common thing that you'll see in 3D movies, is they have the production babies, right? So all of the children that were born during the production of this entire movie. And this one, I want to just grab a number. I want to say it's like 40. There's at least 40 babies that are born in the span of this movie being made by all the production crew. And I think like 4 or 5 of them are named Riley. But as I'm watching all these names go by, it's like, damn, this movie was about these kids growing, at least for a small moment in time, growing up and not having a father around, which caused all this turmoil. How many fathers were working on this movie and were neglecting their own actual kids, making a movie about a father neglecting his kid? That's
what up front when I said director Pete Docter, and he was like, gee, my daughter seems to be getting distant. What's going on in her head? It might be you're making up and I work all the time,
Let me go and start a 5-year project.
This is an interesting one, though, that a lot of the movies recently, bing bonged from one creative team to another. It seems this one basically had the same creative team the whole time and just went through several iterations of the movie that were quite different.
Honestly, I mean, I feel that the Disney machine and formula is so well refined now that they can go through mix-ups and change-ups and turmoil and still end up with a cohesive movie.
But this one didn't have that so much. It seems like there was a pretty consistent line of thought from beginning to end on this one.
The last time that was really obvious was probably Emperor's New Groove. And all the ones after that, even when it was like a little bit noticeable, it mostly gets smoothed over. Even sometimes the movies that I thought were really cohesive, and you'll be like, "Yep, five directors got fired over the course of this movie," and they cover it up well.
You have something in your notes you want to jump into?
One other note is I thought it was pretty deep for, again, a kids animated, like a kids cartoon. The premise of Bing Bong sacrificing himself in such a very specific way, right? So towards the end, in order for joy and sadness and everyone to get back to Riley. And I guess the premise here is that if Joy doesn't get back, Riley is a street kid. Like, she's growing up in like the streets of San Francisco or elsewhere for the rest of her life. So the stakes are pretty damn high. So Joy's trying to get back to Riley. And one of those things is that she's got Bing Bong with her, which is her imaginary friend from childhood, and they're trying to ride this like imaginary scooter thing and launch themselves. And they keep doing it over and over again, but they can't get the momentum. I'm thinking of Ava right now. They can't get the momentum and the trajectory right. So Bing Bong's like, let's try this one more time. And he notices that his arm is starting to fade away, because the premise is that if he doesn't make this jump, then he's going to be forgotten forever. And you watching it as a audience member, you realize like, yeah, Riley's growing up. She's going to forget about her imaginary friend. And he realizes that, but Joy doesn't realize it. So as they go for that last launch, he jumps off the back and Joy doesn't know it. But essentially he's condemning himself to death, like the second death style, right? Like not just dying, but also being forgot forever. So he makes that like he's basically Jesus Christ.
But Joy remembers him. Does that matter? Riley doesn't. That's the weird thing. Joy would continue to remember Bing Bong.
But who is Riley? Riley's nothing. Riley is just the outer shell that contains all these marbles, and the marble is really what remembers Bing Bong.
Okay, yeah, but that's where the fractal thing goes in. And what about Joy's memory balls or whatever? How's that work? So
I hope if it's not Inside Out 2, we need an Inside Out 3 or
Infinite,
where it goes
Inside Out, infinity plus one.
Yeah,
that's what we need. But you could also though say you do need Bing Bong because you need your inner child, right? That's what they say. Be like the boy, be like Roy. The Simpsons reference or whatever. But there's also the inner child concept, and that's kind of Bing Bong as well, isn't it?
I mean, again, 80s, 90s movie reference, but Drop Dead Fred is kind of that version of like Bing Bong comes back when you're in your 30s. Do you remember Drop Dead Fred?
Kind of. I remember
Phoebe Cates and...
No, I saw the movie. It was when I was maybe 13 or 14, summer vacation, walked over to a girl's house I had a crush on. So we were watching the movie, but I was only paying half attention to the movie, wasn't I?
Oh, yeah. The little homunculi behind the scenes were up to
They were distracted.
Else. Yeah. Well, the premise of that movie is that a girl, I want to say she's like late 20s, early 30s or something, but like she's older now, and she goes back home to stay with her mom, and all of a sudden she starts remembering her old imaginary friend. And as like this 20, 30-year-old, she's making mud pies again. She's like causing havoc, and it's destroying her relationship with her mom. But this like Drop Dead Fred imaginary friend won't let it go. So I guess there is a version, because in this movie and Inside Out, they make it seem like once your imaginary friend's gone, he's gone forever. Once those memories are gone, they're gone forever. But that, again, like to debate the science aspect of this, that I don't necessarily agree with, because it just becomes less accessible to you. But it does seem at any point, any of these memories could come back.
Yeah, maybe you add some energy to it, man. Like force lightning them, put some energy back. They come back alive, something like that. But again, it's that clockwork model so much of like, yeah, your memories are just all these little balls, and the ones that don't matter are in a dump pile, and they've grayed out. But then you can go in this weird world and you can grab the memory. It's tactile, where that's a weird way to think about memory.
Well, also that there are like these physical objects that you could technically smuggle in and out, or that you could fabricate. You could like manipulate these things, right? Because part of the premise of this movie is that Joy is keeping these core memories in a bag and away from sadness, so that sadness won't touch them. So like she's actually preventing emotion from touching these memories. So she's kind of controlling it in a way that's not natural.
I mean, yeah, because they have core memories, right? Which are the most important ones. I'm thinking like, my core memories most of them don't matter that much, you know? And every time I think of them, it's going to be like, I'm even thinking of it differently. Like the first two that come to mind, okay, this one maybe works. It fits in with the theme of Inside Out. I remember my 6-year-old birthday party in my living room at my parents' house where they had a clown come, right? And I wasn't scared by that clown. It was fun, right? This is not a disgust memory. And then the other one is, my first year in Japan when I was about to go back, riding my bicycle down a street for about a minute is a core memory. It's just ingrained in there, and I'm not quite sure why.
Well, here's a fun thought experiment for you, and I guess anyone else listening, watching. But think about the very first memory that you've got, right? Like whatever your oldest memory is, think about what that one is. Now, are you remembering the actual memory, or are you just remembering the last time you recalled it? So really, you're just thinking of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy times however many times you've conjured that up, right? So
that's what I'm saying. When I remember that street, it probably doesn't look anything like the actual street did, Well, somewhat.
Right, because you've been slowly changing little features of it over time. So technically, I mean, and I wonder where that line is drawn. Because if it's something I'm trying to remember, like that just happened, right? If I look at my hand right now and I take it away and I think about what it looked like, versus if I try and remember that moment in a year from now and again in a year from now and again in a year from now, at a certain point, you're just thinking about the last time you thought about it and you're not thinking about the first time you thought about it, right? Is that, am I making sense, or is that?
Also, I have a few contenders for my first memory. One, I remember being in someone's townhouse and it's a spiral staircase. And yeah, I'm sure that's changed every time. But also, was that actually a dream I had at a very young age? Did I see that on TV, or did I actually go with my parents? Because I cannot work out where this place was or why we were there or anything, early memory, I remember being at Six Flags and there was some boy a little bit older than me. But then I've seen photos of that. It might be the photos I'm remembering and not the memory.
And you'll never know. And honestly, you could also just be a brain in a vat right now.
That's right. We're all brains in that. We're all in the matrix. We're all plugged in.
I do like in this movie, they give you this idea that everyone's going through the same thing and it's not just Riley. Although part of me too kind of likes the idea where they could have left it as like, maybe it's just Riley. Maybe everyone else is real and she's like a cyborg AI girl.
Yeah, I think this one very much spells it out that it's everybody. So, well, yeah, the end second. Right, I was about to say the end seconds, the end credit sequence, like, just make sure you know this,
I like it. So yeah, I mean, top, what did you say? Top 10, top 5?
That's what you were saying. I'm going to stick top 20. I'm pretty sure I can think of 10 I like better than this. And then it gives me a metaphysical indigestion. So.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I said that for Coco too. I think I might use the same term, metaphysical indigestion.
I'll put this in top 15 and leave it there for now.
Yeah, I could probably agree with that. But yeah, I can think of 10 I like better. But it's a very good movie, which is why it's so fascinating that it doesn't sit well with me.
And honestly, I'm not even that big of a fan of the animation artwork style. I'm not a huge fan of the general premise, or at least the story beats that it goes through. I'm not a fan of like what it teaches you. But I'm a huge fan of how deep this movie gets, and it's not a freaking 2.5 hour movie. I think it's like an hour and 35 minutes or something.
Something like that.
I mean, it was masterfully done. Even if I hate it, even if I hate the message behind it, I think it was still done very well. I kind of put this up like around like Toy Story 3 range, where I hate what it represents, but I like it.
That's also, yeah, I think that I put this in the same zone as Toy Story 3. Now, you had a lot more discomfort with Toy Story 3 than I had, though I could certainly recommend where you're coming from. So this one sits weirder with me than Toy Story 3.
The Toy Story 3, I think, is dangerous for younger kids about teaching them to like love their toys and their toys love them back. I think that is particularly dangerous way to shape reality for them, because that's how you create a Disney adult. Whatever.
Just make sure you show them 4 afterwards.
In this,
okay, if the toy gets lost.
And 5 that has the
and you can make your own. Yeah.
But this movie, it seems so much more dangerous, man. It seems like it plants these ideas of cynicism and anger and striking back and like being rebellious. And not in like a fun 80s, 90s rebellious way, but in like, I'm going through actual depression and these are some real problems that I'm going through. And I'm no longer like, I'm losing friends and I'm losing interest in hobbies. And I don't care about my family as much. And I'm going to lie and I'm going to run away. Like those seem like very heavy things to put on a kid then you're just like, hey, who wants to go to the movies today? And your kid's coming back like, I understand existential dread for the first time.
I mean, until Pixar, until Toy Story, Disney movies never had like normal characters in that sense of the word. We never had just a kid in jeans and a t-shirt who goes to the wrong pizza shop. You know, that starts pretty much. It's even Oliver and Company. It's supposed to be like New York City, but it's still talking animals. You know, Toy Story is the first one where it's like, and even there, they were like, we can't really animate the humans yet. Andy looks terrifying in that movie, right? So it even took them a few years to put humans into it properly.
Yeah,
but now we're 20 years down the line. We can animate the humans. They're going to wear jeans and a t-shirt. You're going to have to deal with depression and running away from home.
I think the Rescuers and Rescuers Down Under had the kid in jeans and t-shirt.
Still with talking animals. I mean, I guess
right.
Everything on the outside, that's why it's Inside Out, right? Everything on the inside is weird and Disney-like and theme parks. I do like the look in there more than you, I think. And I love those theme park mime palaces. Those are cool. But yeah, everything on the outside is trying to be as like realistic as possible, which previous to Pixar, that was never the case. The Rescuers still looks crazy.
I gotta say,
from a real sense.
That San Francisco street at night, it was like, oh, this is scary.
Yeah. No, great looking movie. I'm art direction, all that. I'm in with it. I guess I've probably said everything I need to say about this. Anything else you want to go on about that Art Deco bus station at the end? I like that.
Just plugs, man. I guess the plug for this week, if you like MKUltra and Mind Control, you should go to MKUltracomic.com and you can get a little chick track style comic that breaks down the entire history of the MKUltra program, from Bluebird and Shatter and Delta and Naomi and Derby Hat and Third Chance and all the other names that I still remember because they're all in this book, and it'll make it super easy for you to memorize all the MKUltra facts too. So go and check that out, and everything else that you can find at paranoidamerican.com, the best conspiracy and occult comics in the world.
Let me get inside your head with the binaural beat. Seems like the right time for that. That's at rovingsagemedia.bandcamp.com. The newest release there is The Depths of Fieldation, which is 3 tracks put to, the 432 hertz or whatever. And yeah, see how you dig. Read while you do it. Don't drive through the fog. My friend who lives in San Francisco is like, yeah, I was listening to your binaural beats while driving through the fog. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea, man. So don't listen to binaural beats while driving through fog. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's fun. Maybe you trip out that way.
Just buy something. Just buy something from Paranoid American. Just buy something. Just buy something from Paranoid American. Get some merch, buy some art. Click that link, add to cart, say it back, need that print, nod your head, give consent, buy a comic, 3 or 4, think this thought, I want more, buy a sticker from the store, think this thought, I want more, just buy something, just buy something from Paranoid American. Just buy something. Just buy something from Paranoid American.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper, the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuke nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.